Hello and welcome. I'm Aaron, and we're going to study the Parsha in Hebrew today. We're studying Parashat Shlach, and this is our third installment, so we're going to be a few verses in. So let me just get my screen ready. I want to say thank you to any of you who are members of the Beth Manuel virtual community. We really appreciate having you here. Let me get a little closer to the microphone so you can hear me well. And I'm going to be using the website called Sfaria, which you can find a link to at the Beth Manuel website, bethmanuel.org/kolel. So let me just share my screen with you. Okay. So you'll see where we are. We're in Numbers chapter 13. Numbers chapter 13. Yod Gimel is 13. And we've read through this much, and I think we read Pasuk Dalet, chapter or verse 4, and then I kind of briefly went over what we would expect with the following verses. There's a lot of repetition here, but as I said before, this is the Ele Shmotam Limate Reuven Shamua ben Zachor. So these are their names for the tribe of Reuven, Shamua ben Zachor, and then for each of the following, each of the tribes, we've got a name. I'll just read through them, give us some reading practice. Limate Shimon, Shaphat ben Hori. Limate Yehuda, Caleb ben Yifune. Limate Yisachar, Yigal ben Yosef. I think that name is awesome, actually. Yigal ben Yosef. He will redeem the son of Joseph. Yeah, that's right. Turns out he's a bad spy, though, so that's too bad. Limate Ephraim, Hoshea bin Nun. Yay. Limate Binyamin, Palti ben Rafu. Limate Zvulun, Gadiel ben Sodi. Limate Yosef, Limate Menashe, Gadi ben Susi. Now I'll just point out what's going on here. You can see there's a little more to this sentence. We have Limate Yosef. So for the tribe of Joseph, Limate Menashe, and then it says for the tribe of Manasseh. So it specifies, we actually talked about Ephraim up here, for the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea ben Nun. And then for some reason, Menashe is not just listed as for the tribe of Manasseh. It's just it's prefixed by Limate Yosef for the tribe of Joseph. So Gadi ben Susi, it's a funny name too. His name is basically his name translated into English is lucky son of my horse. I don't know. It's strange. Anyway, Limate Dan Amiel ben Gemali. Limate Asher Stur ben Michael. Limate Naphtali Nachbi ben Vofsi. This, by the way, makes an O sound. Every once in a while, you get one of these kamatz letters or vowels, or T-shaped vowel that makes an O sound, and this is one of them. So it looks like it says Vafsi, but it's pronounced Vofsi. Limate Gad, Giduel or Geuel ben Machi. Great. Okay, so now we're going to get into some more substantial text. Pasuk Tet Zayin, 16. Ele Shmot HaAnashim Asher Shalach Moshe Latur et Haaretz Vayikra Moshe LeHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. So these, Ele means these. Shmot, okay, so the word Shem means name. Shemot means names. But this is Shmot. You hear the difference between Shemot and Shmot. Okay, Shmot, it means names of because it's in a noun construct. So when you have more than one, we've talked about this a lot, but when you have more than one noun that are stuck together and just put placed consecutively, they're often in this form called a noun construct where it implies an of in between them. And what will happen is all but the last noun in that list will sometimes be modified. The vowels shorten as sort of the energy is sucked into the last one. So this changes from shemot to shmot because you're hurrying to get done with this word so you can continue and say this word. So just rush over it with shmot. And then this word is ha'anashim. So we've seen this one before too. This is the plural of ish. Anashim is people or men. And ha means the. So ha anashim is the men or the people, or as we talked about before, these are prominent men. Remember, because it emphasizes that they are anashim. Which, why would it emphasize that they're male or adults or something like that? Which seems pretty normal, but it's emphasizing that they are prominent men. So it's using that word ish to mean a great man or a prominent man. So shmota anashim is the names of these men. These are the names of the men. And the word are is implied. The present tense, or even actually some other tense, word for is or are is typically implied. There's not a verb for that in Hebrew. Only if it's past tense or future tense. So I guess we could say perfect or imperfect, where you'd have a verb for being in there. So you just have to throw that in. These are the names of the men. Asher. Okay, Asher is the relative pronoun. Again, whenever you see Asher, you should expect that whatever comes after is going to be a phrase that's going to describe what came before it. So what came before it was men, and now we have an Asher, and so now we're going to say a phrase that's going to describe the men. And in English, we translate this as, in this case, who, because we're talking about people. Otherwise, it could be which or that or where, depending on what it's describing. So what comes after this is a phrase that's going to describe these men. Shalach Moshe Latur et haaretz is the phrase. Okay, so shalach, that's the same verb root that we get shaliach. It means he sent. Shalach is he sent. It's just in the simple, perfect, that's like past tense form. He sent. Shalach. Okay, Moshe, that's the name of Moses. So now remember that in English, our word order indicates who's doing what in the sentence. We would say Moses sent, but in Hebrew, it doesn't work that way. Usually you have the verb first. And so Shalach Moshe means Moses sent rather than he sent Moses. Okay, so Shalach Moshe, Moses sent. Latur, okay, tour is explore, so latur, to explore, or to, you can see, to spy out. As I mentioned before, this is the same word that's used in Deuteronomy, where it says, "You shall not explore after your heart and after your eyes." Okay, so it's the same kind of a thing. I think it's easy for me to remember because if you go on a tour, if you're on a tour to Israel, you're exploring and seeking things out. So the word tour reminds me of that English word, take a tour. I have no idea if they're related or not. So et haaretz, remember et tells us what the sentence or what the verb, what's happening in the verb or what it's happening to. So it shows us what is the direct object. Whatever comes after this et is what the verb is acting on. So the verb right here is to explore. To explore what? The land. Et haaretz. Haaretz. So eretz is the normal word for earth or land. Haaretz becomes the land. It always changes to aretz instead of eretz. See, this is strange. I don't know why the word Adamah came up here. That doesn't even make sense. But land is over here. Must be related to the word land. The dictionary. I have no idea how that all operates, but it's funny anyway. So et haaretz, the land, latur et haaretz. So that's our phrase that describes ha'anashim. So shalach Moshe latur et haaretz. Moses sent to to explore the land. And so that's what describes the men, ha'anashim. So the men whom, in this case it's whom, Moses sent to explore the land. Great. Okay. Now we're going to continue in with a new phrase. You can see this is the word Vayikra, just like the name of the book of the Bible, Vayikra. Vayikra means and he called, because the book of Vayikra or Leviticus begins with he called to Moses. So kara is the root of that. Kuf resh aleph, kara. Just that would be the normal way to say he called, just like this, kara. Yikra usually would mean he will call, but in this form, vayikra with the vay in front, it puts it in that narrative form where it's again in that perfect or past tense kind of form, meaning that it's already happened in it, but it flows and along with the narrative, and so we're beginning a new sentence here, but it kind of goes along with the story. So vayikra, and he called. Okay, who called? Moshe. Remember, it doesn't say he called Moshe, but because that's what we would think based on English word order, but in Hebrew word order, Moshe called leHoshea. Okay, so we have Hosea, the name Hosea. We in English would call him Hosea sometimes, right? Hosea. And so l in the beginning means to or for, and especially when it's used with the word call, kara, it's just what you call something. So it's not like he called to Hosea, like, hey Hosea. When you say kara l, it means that you call something this. You're naming it, right? So kara ends up meaning idiomatically naming. So you might ask, "Ech korim lezeh?" Like, what do they call this? Using that same phrase. What is this name? So basically, what we're saying here is Moses named Hosea. Bin Nun is a part of his name. So Nun is his father's name. I don't know why it always is the case with Yehoshua or Hoshea ben Nun that he's called Bin instead of Ben. This is the same word. It means son of, but it's in that form. Could be that is just because of the Nun in there. I'm not sure. It just doesn't make clear sense to me, and I'm sure there are explanations out there. But basically, he's saying Hosea, son of Nun, Hoshea bin Nun, and so Moshe named him, and now here's his new name, Yehoshua, and the stress is on the shu here. So you can see in terms of the letters from Hoshea and Yehoshua. It's just this yod that gets added. The yod gets added to Hoshea, but then the vowels change. And instead of an ea, we have ua. Okay, so Yehoshua. Now you'll find later, now this is interesting in the dictionary form, how they spell it with not with that 3 dots vowel, the shuruk. Instead they, or the kibbutz, they instead spell it with a shuruk, which sounds exactly the same. And there actually only are, I think, 3 places in the Tanakh where it's spelled like this. Most of the time it's spelled like this without the vav in there. And you'll find actually in some of the later books of the Bible that his name gets shortened down to Yeshua without the ho in it. Yeshua. All right. So now we are at time is it? Yeah, I think we've taken up our 15 minutes. So thank you for joining us. I'm glad you could be here, and we'll have to pick up on this this parsha next year, and next week we'll just move on with the next one. At this rate, we should be able to get through the Torah in about 50 years. So that'll be a great long-term goal. All right, shalom, Shabbat shalom, and we'll see you next week.